Welcome to the Woburn traffic meeting on Thursday, July 16th at 4 o'clock. I call this meeting to order. I'd like to remind everyone in the room that this meeting is being broadcast, and I'd ask that you please silence your mobile devices. Today we have 7 old business items and 1 new business item on the agenda. Lindsay, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner DeMambro.
Here.
Commissioner Jolly.
Here.
Commissioner Duran, absent. Commissioner Karen Smith. Commissioner Lieutenant Mark Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Greg Graham.
Here.
Commissioner Greg Soccorellis.
Present.
Commissioner Sergeant Stokes.
Here.
And Chair Papalato.
Present. Could we get a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the last meeting?
So
on
moved.
November 21st.
So moved.
Second. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's passed. Lindsay, could you please introduce the first agenda
Sure.
item?
The first item on the agenda under old business is the request for school signage near 288 Mishwan Road related to City Council special permit.
Is the petitioner in the room?
I don't believe so.
I know there was some correspondence back with Lou DeMambro. Maybe you could provide us some kind of an update?
Yes, Mr. President. I spoke to Superintendent Duran this morning at the department head meeting on this particular matter, as well as Engineer Corey on this matter. According to them, it probably should go back to the city council due to mitigation, as well as engineering has to take and work with the owner of that property that's doing the construction at 288 Mishwam, because they would be responsible for buying the signs and installing them, according to what Superintendent Duran had spoken about. So I think at this time, this matter would have to take and probably either have a correspondence sent to engineering and DPW to see what exactly they're looking for, and that would probably have to be put out to the owner of, or whoever's in charge of the construction for that daycare.
Okay. So is this something we want to bring back to this meeting, or should it take a completely different path here?
I'm kind of thinking it should take a different path, because it keeps coming back here, but it seemed to, from what I gathered from what the superintendent said, it really falls back on the owner of that daycare, and you know, it's kind of their responsibility to kind of do the legwork on this and to get the particulars from engineering on the code and exactly what needs to be done. And then they would be responsible for the install once it gets approved through the DPW.
Okay. Do you want to put that in a form of a motion?
My motion would be to
On file?
place it on file and send a communication to the engineering department, DPW, to reach out to the owner of the property of the daycare and let them communicate this with one another.
Okay. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Next agenda item?
Next item on the agenda was a request for traffic lighted pedestrian crossing at Reeves Elementary School, 241 Lexington Street. I think last meeting, you just tabled it to the next matter because it's a Mass DOT right away.
Yeah.
And through the chair, Mr. President. Again, I spoke to Superintendent Duran this morning, knowing that he would be absent for this meeting. And he said that this has to deal with Mass DOT and District 4, and this got to be brought to them. So I think it would probably be wise for City Council of the Ward, Chuck Viola, to have a communication sent out to him, as well as to the to the engineering department, our engineering department, to work in conjunction with Mass DOT in regards to a traffic light at the Reeves School, 241 Lexington Street.
Any other comments on that one? Do you want to put that in the form of a motion, please?
Motion would be to send out a communication letter to Chuck Viola, the city council for Ward 7, Ward 1, I'm sorry, and
Ward 7's right.
Ward 7, I'm sorry, and a communication out to our engineering department, as well as Mass DOT District 4, in regards to this traffic light,
You mean pedestrian crossing?
pedestrian crossing light.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes?
And do you want to place the matter on file?
And we can make a motion and put the matter on file, place the matter on file.
Second. There was a motion and a second.
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda, we have the request for stop signs on Fowler Street to create a four-way intersection with Garfield Street, as well as LED stop sign and rumble strips. Last meeting, you had made a motion that the DPW investigate striping the crosswalks as well as put on reflective surfaces on the stop signs.
Okay, is the petitioner in the room?
I don't think, I think you were just gonna have an update on it this meeting.
Through the chair, Mr. President, I again spoke to Superintendent Duran this morning, department head meeting, and according to him, his exact words were, it does not meet the warrants to have a four-way intersection and to have any stop signs erected at that site.
Any other thoughts on this matter?
I took a look at that intersection. It's no different than any of the other intersections that cross Fowl. They've all got stop signs, they're all reflective signs. There is a crosswalk there that needs to be repainted, but obviously weather prohibits it at this point. Public Works will repaint those crosswalks. So it'll be consistent with all of the other cross streets that cross Fowl Street.
Okay,
I would also like to add, through the chair, Mr. President, that according to Superintendent Duran, there is some construction being done to a house or a home at that location, and that the vans and the commercial vehicles that are there to do the construction at that residency is also causing, lines of sight to be an issue. So that probably is one of the main factors there. And again, this is according to Superintendent Duran, who was out there and he inspected it.
okay. Would you like to make a motion on this?
I would like to make a motion that we table the matter and that a communication is sent out to the DPW to have the crosswalks.
Did that you already sent a communication.
Oh, I
to
did
them.
send
Yeah,
it
so the communication,
for the crosswalks to be repainted?
I sent a communication because you asked the DPW to
Okay.
investigate striping and the cross,
Okay,
yes.
so I
Unless
guess,
you want to do word it differently, I can do another communication if you'd like.
I don't think it's necessary. One's enough. I'd like to just make a motion to table the matter.
Table the matter to the next meeting or file it?
File it. Let's file it. I'll make a motion to file this matter.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda, we have under 3D is a request for signage for crosswalk and blind driveway sign and speeding enforcement on Forest Park Road from Thomas Street to Boyd Road. There is a communication dated Wednesdays, January 15th, from Counselor Joe Demers in front of you. I don't know if you want to accept that for the record.
Make a motion to accept that, put it on record?
Okay. Is the petitioner in the room?
There's a motion and a second to accept that communication from Counselor Demers.
Second.
There was a second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Is the petitioner in the room? Will you please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and kind of give us some background on this, please?
Just before we start, I just want to let you know, communication was sent to the DPW. Last meeting, you guys made a motion a second that the DPW cut back brush on Forest Park Road from Boyd Road to Route 95 Bridge and to straighten up the existing blind driveway sign.
Correct. Todd Simon, 6 Boyd Road, and I appreciate you guys having me here. So if you can pull forward a little bit towards that and keep going, wrap around the bend. Nope, that way. Left, there you go. Follow the vehicle, if you could. All right, so right here, there are a couple signs, and yes, the brush was cut back. That blind drive sign is pretty dated and tiny. And so that's kind of like our first issue. And then keep going a little bit, one more click. All right, so as you can see, on the right-hand side, all of those barriers that hold up the bridge, that blocks any view coming out of Boyd Road. So keep going forward. It stops you.
So was that brush cut back already?
It was cut back. It is a slight improvement, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is right here. So if you turn it around, do a 180, please. Thank you. So right here is Boyd Road, and there's probably only about 20 yards between the Boyd Road sign and the last barrier of the bridge behind it. And what ends up happening if you're at the end of Boyd Road and you're either trying to cross that crosswalk, or if you're a resident that's trying to pull out on the street and take a left or a right, literally, even if you wait about 5 seconds, a car can just appear because of how the road winds. And there's been multiple close calls, and it's a weekly thing. I mean, it's not just like a one-off. There are some newer drivers on the street, elderly drivers on the street as well, that we're all concerned about. You did put on the telephone pole on the left-hand side, you did put up a speed identifier, if you will. It works inconsistently, but I will say when it does work, it is very helpful because it catches the driver's eye on Forest Park, and they're kind of alerted to slow down. I guess, I know myself and Alderman Demers discussed a traffic mirror, and I know that's not going to happen because of an ordinance or what have you. But what's tough is for whoever's on Boyd Road, go to the left. Perfect. This is a perfect view. On that left-hand side, it hides all the vehicles that are coming towards you, and that's only about 20 yards between that post and the street. So I get it if the mirror is not an option here, although we'd like it to be. If we could at least get a sign that says, that $100 fine if not you don't yield to a pedestrian in the crosswalk, because nobody ever, they're too late to see the crosswalk, but they disregard you there anyway. And then maybe some sort of speed limit sign, and get that the speed monitor working consistently. I guess that would suffice. But it is sketch. It is tough, and it's not like you can do much with the bridge. But as long as you alert people to the oncoming traffic and the blind drive, and in a more updated version, I think it would suffice. That's all my time.
Okay.
I appreciate
So
it.
why don't we start with feedback from DPW, Lou?
Through the chair, I'd spoken to, again, Superintendent Duran. He did say that sign on the opposite side of the bridge from what we're looking at is outdated. He did make the recommendation, as well as Engineer Corey, the engineering department, to put an updated sign that says, blind drive with reflective tape on the upright signpost. The miles per hour, I believe they were going to take and look into putting miles per hour signs in both directions, easterly and westerly. That is pretty much where we left it. As for the brush, from what we can see, it was said through Superintendent Duran as well as Engineer Corey, that would have to be brought up to, again, Mass DOT, because that's the easement or the buffer for the highway. And that falls into their jurisdiction, I guess you could say.
Gotcha.
To cut all of that brush back, but as you can see, it's pretty much the bridge columns that are the obstruction.
Yep.
So that's pretty much where we left it. They did say they were going to take and go down and review it again.
Okay.
So that's where we left it as of this morning.
Understood.
Other comments?
Through the chair, I'd just like to add, as far as the crosswalk goes, I would like to see some of the yellow reflective signage, if that's possible as well. They're at a lot of the intersections now, and I personally noticed them right away when I'm coming up on a crosswalk, and that crosswalk probably should be, it doesn't look too bad right there. I'm not sure if that's newer, an older picture or not, but I drove through there today, and I think it's a little faded, so. I'd certainly be in favor of some reflective signage on both sides, just alerting drivers of the crosswalk.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
The pedestrians using that crosswalk, are they heading, I guess, away from the bridge generally when they leave Boyd, or do they go?
It runs parallel to the bridge. So, but great question. I walk my dogs either way, so I'm either going under the bridge or I go up to the church parking lot to walk them. So it's pretty much 50-50.
Getting at possibly, what if we eliminated that and moved it down the street away from the bridge?
That would not be bad. The only other thing is I don't know the logistics of where you can put a crosswalk, but there's two residents there, and then the end of the next street over, I don't know what that goes into necessarily, but yeah, I mean, that would be a good compromise. Absolutely. It would be the end of that street to the right. I just don't know where. See how the end of that street kind of goes up the hill?
Yeah.
So maybe you'd have to do two crosswalks.
Right,
So I'd have to cross
Get you
that.
farther away from the bridge with a longer line of
Yeah,
sight.
it would be a block and a half. So I'd rather not do that because I like getting up to the church quicker. But yeah, it would have to be that side though, I believe. Because the other side goes right up the ramp of the hill.
So you're okay with leaving the crosswalk where it is?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, other comments or questions?
So I want to speak to the sign that you referenced. That's a temporary sign. It's actually coming down this week. We're using a different higher tech system now. I believe Officer Gately brought some analytics with them last time on Forest Park. And I did put that sign up because we had data up until the first of the year on it. And it did slow it down. The speed was okay prior. It was, I believe, 28 miles an hour was the average speed, with the 95 percentile being 31 miles an hour. It means 95% of the people drive and go 31 or below. With the sign up, it dropped a couple miles per hour, and it brought the 95 percentile down to like 28 miles per hour. So my point is, I'm not a big proponent of permanent signs, but if there was a spot for a permanent sign, this could possibly be a location, but that'd be something you need to speak with your alderman on. There's funding involved in that, and it's not an easy process, just to give you a heads up on it. But I'd be in favor of that, just for the record. But as far as that sign goes, when it's not, sometimes it is collecting data, but it's not showing the speed, because we want to kind of compare and contrast the people seeing it as opposed to not seeing it. So that's why you
Gotcha.
saw it sometimes not showing the speed and sometimes showing it.
Makes sense.
But now it's outdated for our concerns, because we went with a different higher tech system that's GPS generated, so.
Gotcha. All right, I'll speak to Joe on that.
Okay, anybody else? Comment, question? Mr. DeMembro?
Matt, can you take and swivel to the right to show me if there's a curb cut on the opposite side? Is that a curb cut, or is that a curb? Or is that a berm? No, that's a berm. So technically, that crosswalk's non-compliant. So that needs to be made compliant. unless it was to be moved. And that would be something that I guess you and your neighbors
Joe.
would have to decide, and Joe,
Gotcha.
if you want to move that. But as of right now, there's no ADA compliance there with a curb cut, with a
Understood.
ramp, with the rumble strip, like you can see a block away
Yep.
in the development.
I understand, yep,
So,
completely. All right,
so if that's something, I don't know if you want to take and bring back to us, I mean, we can put in a couple of motions today, but as for that walk, if that needs to be moved,
got it.
you,
You'd need to do it on, further down the street anyway.
well, it's either we move it now,
Yeah.
or that curb needs to be cut
Got it.
and done right. So before we cut it, let's
Pick-
decide if they want to keep it there.
Gotcha. All right, fair enough.
Other questions or comments? All right, so we've had a few different suggestions here. I think, Lou, you want to start with a motion on? what you-
I would definitely, I would be in favor of, and I'd like to make a motion that the sign get replaced, the blind driveway sign, with an updated reflective sign that is on the, I guess you could say, the northbound side of 195, before the bridge. As for the signage at that crosswalk, again, that, I don't know if we want to make that motion to install pedestrian crosswalk signs there, because a curb cut is going to have to be put in place. So I don't know if you want to hold off on that, but for now, we could at least have the sign, the blind driveway sign, put into place.
All right, fair enough. You know, I'll keep working with Joe, and yeah, there's no temporary sign though we could put on that pole right there.
No.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I'll keep working with them, and I'll probably see you guys in a month or two.
So my motion would be to just replace the blind driveway sign at this time with the reflective signage. That's my motion,
Blind driveway, updated reflective signage at northbound side of 95.
yes.
Second.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
And can I make another motion, Madam Clerk?
You can do whatever your heart desires.
Thank you. Can we send a communication to Superintendent Duran to take a look at that curb cut, along with installing pedestrian crosswalk signs at that location to get it up to code?
Are you asking about it, or are you instructing him to potentially do it?
Instructing him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Are there any other motions on this issue? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you
I
very much.
appreciate your time. Take care.
Is your intention to keep this for the next meeting, or is this,
Make a motion to table the matter to the next meeting
you
in,
don't have to make that motion, I'm just asking.
yes. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Next item on the agenda we have is a request for school signage upgrade for St. Charles Elementary School on Myrtle Street. I believe the last meeting. I'm actually not sure where it was left off last meeting.
They're gonna check the distance.
Somebody was gonna look into it. I don't know if anyone has, the petitioner is here,
Is the
but I
petitioner
don't
in
know
the
if anyone
room?
else has an update.
Could you step up, give us your name and address, please, and tell us a little about this?
Hi, David Jameson, 3 Burlington Street. I'm a father of 2 boys at St. Charles. The school zone in front of the school is very short, trying to extend that if possible. It's very difficult in the morning before the cars even realize where the school signal is, they're on top of you. So just hoping that they can extend it both to the north and the south.
Okay. So, do you have some feedback from DPW, Mr. DeMembro?
According to Superintendent Duran on this matter, as well as the Deputy Superintendent, they were going to relook at the area and see where the no parking to, from this point to the corner of Main Street in Myrtle, and that's where they left it. They were going to relook at it and see what they could do down there. According to them, there is an abundance of signage down there, and they do understand that there are teachers and faculty at the school that need to park. So they want to take a look at, how many vehicles are down there, during a school day, and if the signs that are there are applicable to what the situation is as of now, because some of those signs have been there for God knows how long.
Yeah. Questions, comments from anybody else?
I did take a ride out there. There are 2 school zone signs in each direction prior to the school itself. They look like they're in good shape. They're reflective. They need to be within anywhere between 150 feet and 700 feet of the school zone. I believe those signs fall within that distance. They're noticeable. They're bright. I don't know what else the Public Works could put up.
Okay.
There is the proper signage at the crosswalk to show, there's 2 signs that you need at a crosswalk.
I guess my concern is that the flashing one is directly in front of the school. There's no distance at all. The one that is before that, if you're traveling south, is up high, and it is a little bit of a distance. It's certainly not traditional with the new school zones.
I haven't found anything in the MUTCD handbook that requires a flashing sign at the school zone. So I don't know who would repair that. Is that through fire department? Is that through, are they in charge of any of the flashing signs like that?
We'd have to ask which,
Yeah. But it isn't a requirement. I can't find it in the handbook that we need a flashing sign.
is that sign not operating right now?
I don't think it operates properly, does it?
It doesn't. It's just one light goes steady yellow.
Yeah.
So I can reach out to our light specialist to see if that falls under the fire department or if that's state or city or privately owned. But I can do that.
Through the chair, President.
Remember?
Applato. They replaced the signs up in North Woburn at the Alta Vista School, and it was in fact the electrical division of the fire department that replaced those signs. Just as an FYI.
Okay. Other comments? Does somebody want to put a motion together on this?
Well, I'll make the motion to communicate with the fire department about fixing, repairing that sign at the St. Charles School.
Do we have a second on that?
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Any other comments here? Okay.
Is it the intention to keep it on the next meeting, or is this the final motion on it?
I would think if the electrical division of the fire department goes out there, they examine it, and they address it, that should do it, once they fix it. That should bring that sign up to where it needs to be.
Okay.
So I think-
My only concern, again, the motorists that go by are not slowing down until they see that flashing sign. And it's quite dangerous in the morning. I don't do the pickups in the afternoon, I just know in the morning. They are shooting around you, they're going very quickly.
You said this sign falls within the school limit zones.
Not that sign, the reflective signs on the post, the yellow signs with the school symbol of the children.
So I think he's saying is he's worried about if we can move, now what's the possibility of moving the sign?
There's
Well,
one right
they're-
prior to the old Armory building,
They're
up
within-
up on a pole.
Yeah, they're within the
Distance
required
was about 100 feet, is what I was going to guess. I did measure it last time, I just don't remember what it was.
Right.
There isn't one coming the other direction, a reflective sign, but there is just the flashing sign, and that one does flash.
Okay.
And I would just add, as far as the operation of that, Lieutenant Sefakis, he does do the speed signs, and he's very good, and he'll be out tomorrow if we ask him to come out and look at it.
I will.
I'm surprised that it's not operating properly. If he was aware of it, he'd take care of it. The location of it is certainly not ideal. I don't know, I think that's a question for the engineering department and the superintendent, the DPW, to decide if it's possible to relocate it. So maybe we should make a motion to bring it to their attention to see if there's any feasible option to move it to a different location. I'm sure it's a harder task than it appears to be.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Next item on the agenda we have is request for signage and safety measures on Evans Street.
Is the petitioner in the room?
I don't think so. I think it was left in the hands of DPW.
Council, as a member, do you want to provide an update on that one as well?
Again, through the meeting this morning, Superintendent Duran, he had stated he believes that area is a private way, and he was going to rely on engineering. Greg, he mentioned you specifically and said, see if Greg can look into that, because he believes Evans is a private way, and we have to be cautious. And he does agree that the incline to get up there off of Beacon is steep, and once you get to the top and you crest it, it is an obstructed view. He didn't think speed really was a concern, but he definitely thought that there should be some sort of a sign of a blind driveway posted at the base of Beacon and Evans.
Just an update, you did send a communication to city solicitor asking for your rights, regarding rights on a private way for the city of Woburn and the Traffic Commission.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a motion to be made on this issue?
I would say we,
Want me to weigh in on some of the research that we had done on this? Okay. If you can see the assessor's map, Evans Street runs from Water Street to Beacon. It's a 12-foot wide paved road, or driveway almost. The section leading from Water Street is it's an unaccepted street. It's laid out on a plan as a street. It's 30 feet wide. It's about 195 feet long. That's what we've been maintaining in our Chapter 90 book, if you will. The other end of it, coming off Beacon Street, I think the other end, Matt, go to your, yeah. That's a 20-foot wide private right-of-way. We plow it, I think. I'm pretty sure we pick trash up. In the middle of this, houses number 14 and 9, there is no easement for the pavement. The two private roads end at those two properties. The pavement passes through those, so there's no easement on it. It's not a continuous right-of-way. So it is all private at that point. I think the residents could post any sign they wanted to. If Public Works wants to place a children at play or a cautionary sign of any kind, where we do plow it, I think we have some legal standing to post a sign. There is a street sign, I think, missing at the Water Street end. The sign department has told me that they will be installing that when the ground is thawed, it's frozen at this point. But if Public Works can post a sign for maybe just at the crest of the hill or just prior to the crest of the hill, asking residents to just be cautious, whatever signage they can find would, I think, take care of some of that problem. It is only 12 feet wide. It's hard to get two cars past each other at that, so I can't imagine that people can really get much of a speed up anyway, but 15 miles an hour on a small street looks fast. So we don't have a legal right to really cross it with public vehicles, but we do.
Any other questions or comments on this? Would you like to make a motion on that?
I make a motion that Public Works install a cautionary sign at their discretion, at their location, on Evans Street, near the crest of the hill.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Next item on the agenda is a request for speed signage on Water Street and stop sign on Robertson Way. At the last meeting, you sent a communication. The DPW, that the DPW, the following, straighten out stop sign and paint a stop line on Water Street. 2, add a not a throughway sign and if possible, larger sign. 3, cut shrubbery back as far as you can on Water Street. And 3, excuse me.
So do we have a DPW feedback on that one?
Matt, can you bring us to Robertson's Way? And water. Yes, street view, please. Exiting Robinson and Water, heading towards the gate at Horn Pond on Sturgis Street. Yeah. That works. Thank you. So there was some question this morning when I brought this up to Superintendent Duran, whether there was a stop sign, and there is, in fact, there is a stop sign. The other sign that's on the left side, Matt, can you bring us down and swing around and see what that sign, I believe, is that a speed limit sign or a do not enter? Not a throughway. They felt that those signs were adequate. I explained the situation of people looking for a parking space, on Sturgis, trying to park near the pond and, going up there and whipping around and coming back. There really isn't a speed limit because it's a dead end and it's really not a throughway, so you have to, when you drive through there, you got to be cautious. I guess we could put in a request to update the signage, not a throughway, so it's more visible, so people don't, but let's face it, people want to turn around to go find a parking spot, and they keep wanting to make that loop to park near the pond. They're going to continue to do that. And I believe, Craig, that's a public way? Robertson and
Robertson is, that section of Water Street, I can't remember, Matt, if that's,
Is that public or private?
Matt brought a point up at the end of last meeting regarding that not through sign, not a throughway sign. It doesn't meet the minimum height requirement. It's behind the brush all the time because it's only 4 feet off the ground or 5 feet off the ground. It's required to be 7 feet. So Public Works is, they're going to elevate that sign up. We've spoken to them about it. They're going to straighten the stop sign up so it's not behind the pole, the utility pole, as you're coming from Robertson Way. So that first sign on the right-hand side will be visible now, out of the brush.
Do we have the rights to cut that brush back, the DPW? Do we have a 5-foot buffer there?
There's at least 5 feet there, yes. Yeah. But getting that sign up 7 feet, I don't think the brush will even be that high.
And are you going to use the existing sign plate, or would there be a
Oh,
new sign plate?
Well,
Maybe something with maybe a little reflective, a little bit of color?
yeah, if they've got a sign that's stating that it's not a throughway, yes, change that sign to a reflective sign. They are also going to paint a stop line at Robinson and install a stop sign at the end of that. It's in the right-of-way, it's in the public right-of-way. But again, that won't take place till they can paint in weather conditions that allow
Everything
it.
thaws out and melts.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have any motion to put forward on this?
I think all those motions were made last meeting.
So can we make a motion to file it? I make a motion to file it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Next item on the agenda is under new business. We have a request for parking enforcement in Hammond Square. I believe the petitioner is here.
Could you please come forward and state your name and address, please?
Good evening. My name is Catherine Shaughnessy, and I live at 31 Scott Street in Woburn. The reason why I'm here is, well, I live in Hammond Square, and I'm sure you all know where that is, but it's an area of city south of Central Square, and just before you get to Woburn Center. It's always been a great little neighborhood. I grew up in that neighborhood. We're looking for relief because there are so many cars jamming up the roads in our neighborhoods, that it's getting more difficult to enter and exit our own neighborhood. We're right in between Main Street and Wynn Street. It's a major cut-through. We have a boarding house which is against the zoning code in Woburn, down in the corner of Plimpton and Johnson Street, and I've reported that to the building department, who's investigating it. But there's probably 12 to 20 people living in there. They all have cars. Many of them have more than one vehicle. They have their personal vehicle, and they have their work vehicle. And their trucks, they're not registered as commercial vehicles, although they should be, but they're the white vans. You see them all over the city of Woburn. They've got ladders on their trucks. We have somebody who works on his car on Plimpton Street, literally works on it on Plimpton Street. Many of these cars are not registered in Woburn, so we're missing out on the excise tax for that. I feel that the people who live in the neighborhood, we who pay our excise tax for the privilege of parking in our own driveways, that should be a rule for everybody. People shouldn't be able to park on the streets who don't live in Woburn. Their cars are not registered in Woburn. So we're missing out on, I think, a significant amount of money. And in a city that just sent out tax bills with double-digit increases, it seems to me we should be going after every revenue that we can. So if they're not registered, and it is against the law, the registry, if they're not registered in Woburn, they shouldn't be parking on the streets of Woburn. A lot of people in our neighborhood can't even get out of their driveways or into their driveways anymore. It's gotten that bad. They're still parking on both sides of the street. The streets are very narrow. We have a apartment building on Wynn Street, and all the cars park on Flag Street. A ladder truck can't get up Flag Street. A school bus can't get up Flag Street. They can't get around. So kids on Flag Street have to cut over to Scott Street to get on the school bus. Forget about getting a ladder truck up there. It's impossible. So we're here looking for relief. We have a lot of signs, stop signs. There are 2 at the end of Plimpton Street. I drive down there every day. There's one in Johnson, one in Plimpton. And I slow down, I go into the middle of the road, because I don't know if I'm going to get whacked on the right side or the left side. The stop signs don't seem to mean anything. People go right through them. Nobody stops at those stop signs. So we have the stop signs, but we need enforcement. It's my understanding that the police need to stop make 4 stops a month. They could come to my neighborhood and knock that out, all 90 police officers in the city of Woburn, I'm quite sure, in a day or 2. That's how serious it is down there. So I was looking through the traffic code here, and we have laws. I think it's been a while since we updated the fines. Overnight parking, does anybody have the code in front of them? Okay, so Title IX, penalties and repeals, it has the fines and the offenses for different things. One of them here is overnight parking, $20 fine. I don't know what that means. Is there no overnight parking?
You're probably referencing the winter parking ban. That's in effect.
Just during the winter?
From November 15th through April 15th.
Okay, because
That's a
it's
$20
not,
fine.
okay,
It's
it's-
heavily enforced,
Yeah.
so I would be surprised if that area is not checked routinely. And I'll let you finish, but we'll speak to some of these concerns when you're done if you want.
yeah, I'd appreciate that. Yeah, I can tell you that they don't abide by it. There are still cars parked on both sides of the road, even during the wintertime ban. So, what I have some notes here. We sat down and talked to some of my neighbors, and we have some questions. What can we do to restrict during not just snow plowing emergencies, but all year round, only parking on one side of the street? It doesn't have to be citywide, only in the neighborhoods where they're very congested, such as the Hammond Square neighborhood. That also includes Charles Street, which is across Main Street where Woburn Gas and Service is. They have a terrible time there as well with the parking. So 2 cars cannot get up and down Plimpton Street, Scott Street, Chestnut Street, Flag Street. 2 cars can't do it. So 2 weeks ago, I was coming home from work. It was about 1:30, and I was coming up Chestnut Street, and there was cars parked on both sides of the road, and a fire emergency vehicle was coming down towards Main. I was going up Chestnut towards my house, and we were at impasse. He couldn't get past me. I couldn't get past him. I couldn't even pull over because there were too many cars parked there. There was nowhere to pull over. So I had to back all the way down, halfway down Chestnut Street onto Main Street, and hope nobody came around, zooming around the corner, because that's what they do, and whacked me in the back. And it was treacherous. It was scary. So these are coming, it's getting so bad, it's just becoming untenable, and it's becoming dangerous. And people live in these neighborhoods. We've lived there a long time. It used to be a beautiful neighborhood. But people are parking. I don't know where they're coming from, but they're not, a lot of them are not. I don't know them, and I used to know everyone in the neighborhood. So it's also, we have a lot of fires now. We recently had 2 fires on Franklin Street. We had one on Main, close to Hammond Square, and we had one on Chestnut Street. They were all illegal apartments in there. They're old homes. They're homes that I used to know the people who lived in those homes, and they're long gone. Their family sold them. Now they're nothing but income properties. They're not owner-occupied properties. They are owned by people who don't live in Woburn. 2 of them out of 3 don't even live in Massachusetts. The properties are run down. They are not up to code, the electric codes. The houses weren't built for a whole bunch of people living in there and having hot plates and heaters, and they're overtaxing the electrical grids in the homes, and that's what's causing these fires. And in the last couple of months, we've had 3 right in our neighborhood. They're boarded up now. It looks terrible. It brings down the whole neighborhood. So we're here looking for help, relief. So we have some suggestions, and this is mine, and it's probably going to blow your minds, but I think we should think about getting parking stickers in Woburn. We're no longer suburban. We're really urban here. And there are certain neighborhoods that need relief. Not all of them in Woburn, but some of them do. And where we are, we need it. We have in here codes about meters. And yet, as far as I know, we haven't had meters in Woburn for decades. Maybe we should meter some places. People come down, and I know people that come down from New Hampshire and take the bus into Boston. They park in Woburn because it's free. They're doing it on Middlesex Street in my neighborhood. They do it on Valley Road. They park at the Walnut Street parking lot. They park at the Strand parking lot for free. They don't park in Winchester or Arlington or Lexington because they'd have to pay. So we really got to think about that. And that's a lot of money, revenue, that also could go into the Treasury and might give us a little tax relief for the citizens who live here, many of which are senior citizens. And they got a 2% COLA raise, cost of living raise, and a lot of people's taxes went up 12, 16%. Not to mention their house insurance went up. Mine went up 16%. So these are things we need to look at in the city. We got to start thinking about the people that live here. These homes that are being rented out, that's somebody, to me, that's a business. I think of a home as a right. Somebody has a right to have a roof over their head. It shouldn't just be about money, people making money. But unfortunately, that's what's happened. So they ought to be taxed at a different rate. I know that has nothing to do with you, but these are just some of my thoughts. But if you could help us get these cars off the road, that would help immensely. Now, we're going to build an apartment building where the old Dome gas station is downtown. That's another tough spot where the lights are. If we could think of putting another lane there. Because when that light changes and you try to go around it, while they're trying to take a left on Salem or Campbell, you can't do it because there's somebody making deliveries at the stores there, the Brazilian restaurant, the Walgreens. They shouldn't be making deliveries. Those times should be restricted very early or very late at night. And now when you're going to put a 3 or 4 story apartment building, it's only going to make things worse.
So it sounds like you've highlighted a plethora of different issues there around, not only on your street, but in the general area. I think we need to stay focused to the trafficy problems, and your request here is to, let me see here.
If you want to park in the streets, and it could be a pilot program in this particular neighborhood, and have parking permits in the particular neighborhood, make it a pilot and see how it goes. It doesn't have to be citywide. And if you want to park on the street, then your car needs to be registered in Woburn. Not in Arlington, not in New Hampshire, not in Maine. It needs to be registered in Woburn. We had a car on Middlesex Street for over 10 years, and the plate was from Alaska. And there's a lot of that in the city of Woburn. And I know there's a law that it's supposed to be registered in Woburn. So we need to enforce it. So if they have to buy a parking ticket to park on the street, if you live in the neighborhood, you should be able to park in the neighborhood. But if you don't, your car's not registered here, and you shouldn't be able to park on the street and you should get fined. And I think that would probably alleviate a lot of problems.
So your request is for parking enforcement in Hammond Square? That's what
Yes.
this is?
Yeah.
So did you get some feedback from the DPW on this one?
They kind of reverted this to the police department.
Okay, and probably because the petition is for parking enforcement, so obviously, we enforce when we're made aware of the situation, so, anytime you see something you believe is illegally parked, feel free to call us, we'll come down and check it out. When I saw this petition, I did go down, I drove around the entire area, looked around, and I did right away notice Church Street and Main Street. There's the no parking sign just in for Main Street, and there was a car parked there. And I spoke with the gas station owner, and I'm hoping that ends that situation. Okay, I thought that was probably the main concern with this petition. Again, the overnight parking, I will let the guys know that work the overnight shift to to be on that issue. As far as the unregistered cars, again, we need to be made aware that that's a possibility, and we'll go down and we'll confirm whether or not they are legally registered. And if they're not, we'll take the appropriate action. The problem is that on those streets you're talking about, there is legal parking on both sides, so maybe in the future, your petition should be to potentially change that rule, like you're talking about some options there. But as of now, we can't tag them just because they're parked on the street, whether they're from Massachusetts or not, because that's a law I'll have to look into. I'm not aware of that, to be perfectly honest with you. So I don't know if you have.
Even during the wintertime when they're not supposed to?
Time that if they're on the even side of the road, they will be tagged.
Okay, so if we want to
Between
just,
2 a.m. and 6 p.m. 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. They can park there during the day, all day long. It's just overnight, between 2 and 6.
they can park on both sides of the road?
As far as I know, is there any no parking signs on there right now that you're aware? I didn't see any. I drove through the area. I didn't see any areas that were restricted as far as, other than
Well, I thought-
obviously in front of driveways or from fire hydrants, et cetera, but there was no parking signs that I saw. The only ones I saw was very noticeable was the Church Street problem, so hopefully that's taken care of. Any other problems that become known to us, we will certainly take care of.
Well, I think we need a no parking 15 feet back from Dr. DeRega's old house, which is on the corner of Main and Scott Street.
Well, I believe at the
people from-
intersection should be, I believe it's 10 feet. Again,
I thought it was 15, but if
tag,
it's
we can
10.
tag if that's the case, if we see it there and it's parked at the intersection. But my point is, the police department can't just change the rules on the fly. You need to petition it actually through the traffic commission. And a lot of the other stuff you spoke on, unfortunately, I mean, I understand a lot where you're coming from on that, but a lot of that stuff it's above our scope. We can't handle the allegations of illegal borders and all that stuff, so.
I know, I reported that to the planning department. He sent a letter out to the owner, who doesn't live there, and shortly thereafter, that person put the house up for sale.
I mean, as far as this petition goes, we'll make every effort to do everything we can to clear out the area for anything that's illegally parked. Again, we have limitations. If they're parked illegal, they can stay. And then if you eliminate, we've done this in the past, we've eliminated parking on some streets, and I'm not always in favor of that because there's a lot, like to your point, becoming more and more of a bigger city. So some of these houses, they do have 2 or 3 tenants in them, and legally, and they have one driveway, so they have nowhere to park, so they use the street.
You'd be surprised, officer, you drive up those streets and you look in the driveways, there's a lot of space and empty space in the driveways. But when you have a lot of people living in a house and are not a family, they don't want to, it's a pain in the neck to have somebody move their car. Now, if it's a real family, they don't have any problem doing that. They maneuver their cars in and out of their driveways. So we got to get the cars off the streets so we can travel the streets. And emergency vehicles can
Like I said,
travel the streets.
That'd be a petition you need to bring up at a future meeting, and we could discuss it.
And would I do it here, or would I do it in front of the city council? Or bring it here and you guys bring it to the city council?
It'd be a discussion for us.
The process to update the traffic code is it would need 2 official readings here. That means an order with the right language at the traffic commission. If the traffic commission so approves, it then goes on to the city council for approval.
Okay. So I have to bring the petition to you? I mean, I'm here asking you because you're the experts. I'm just a citizen, you know, looking for the best way to improve our neighborhood, the situation in our neighborhood. I mean, can you go out and study the area and say, well, I think we should proceed with a traffic ordinance to have parking only on one side, or think about getting parking permits? I think we got to start thinking about that stuff.
You've raised some great points, you really have. Who is Mr. Demers, is he your city councilor, or who's your city councilor?
Alderman, oh, sorry.
Ward 3, right?
City Council, Dillon is
Dillon.
Ward 3, and Demers is Ward 4. Cameron Square's in both.
Right on the border
Depends on
there.
what side of the street, you know, Main Street you're
You might
on.
want to loop them both into this as well, and they can come and speak on your behalf.
Can I just bring up one more point, just so you can consider before you guys make decisions to move forward, which I'm not saying don't do, but if we say we eliminate parking on one side of the streets, you can only park on one side. It becomes first come, first serve. So people could park in front of your house. If they have 3 cars, if they're there first, they have a legal right to park there, just so you're aware of that. So you're taking away
I'm
parking
aware of it.
spots, you'd be taking away parking spots from everybody on the street. Just, again, little things that sometimes when the petition comes before us, they don't understand that.
No,
Spots.
no, I'm aware of that, officer. I'm not trying to take parking spaces away from people who live on the street. I'm trying to get people who don't live on the street, don't have registered cars in the city of Woburn.
Unregistered
off
cars
on
we will
streets.
deal with, but, I mean, otherwise, just getting people that you feel don't live there is beyond the scope of this traffic commission, so.
Mr. Soccerellis, did you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna say, just gotta be careful how things are worded, because you don't wanna have people come visit that don't live in the city of Woburn. Now they're in violation, so you just gotta kinda think about
Well, in some-
logistics.
yeah.
I'm just trying to.
Oh, yeah, I
just
know.
somebody
In
thinks about-
Somerville, they have visitor parking permits. So if you have some visit, they can use the visitor parking permit. I mean, I didn't write the code, I'm just here to make some suggestions and look for help, for relief from you guys and girls.
Greg?
There are some parking restrictions on Plimpton Street. Matt, maybe if you go back to the aerial. The first one is no parking northerly side of Plimpton from Scott to Flag Street. There's no parking there on the north side of the street.
Is there signage? There's no
I don't
signage?
know if there's signage or not.
I didn't notice any signage when I was down there. Well, there's one right there, but that's at the corner.
Yeah, probably should be more.
That, yeah, I understand that. But if you go around the corner there on Flag Street, there's parking on both sides. You can't even make the corner. And you come down and you go down Flag, and you take a right on Franklin. It's so tight.
I know, it's.
Yeah, we had a kid get
Retaining
hit.
walls and everything there, so, yeah.
Yeah, and then you try to pull out to Wynn Street, and now it used to be Eddie's old store, Eddie Narkowicz. Now it's a dog grooming place. And they park, and you can't see, it blocks the line of sight, so it's very treacherous pulling out of there. I very rarely go that way anymore because of that. I got hit one time trying to pull out of there, because everybody, it seems to me now, it's increasingly, nobody seems to know the rules of the road anymore. You know, they don't know how to drive in a rotary, they don't stop at stop signs, they do U-turns right down in Main Street. It's bad. And when the summer, the weather gets warmer, now we've got electrical bicycles and electrical scooters. I don't know what the code is on that. But I was driving up Main Street, going to take a ride on Mishawam, and somebody on an electrical scooter was behind me. The light turned red, I stopped. He went up on the sidewalk, around me, and then back on the road so he could avoid the light. They don't wear helmets. I don't know what the rules of the road, but there are more and more of these, and there are going to be more and more of these. And I don't know if maybe it's because people can't afford $50,000, $60,000 cars. I drive a 19-year-old car. I can't afford a new car like that. So I think we're going to see more and more of that. And what are the rules of the road when it comes to electrical vehicles?
Can we pull up the parking restrictions real quickly? Is that possible? Just so we can, so.
They're online.
No, I know they're online, but I just wonder if we can do it here now, because that I did not do. And if, to your point, you said that's Plimpton Street. Just to
Want
see
this?
before we go
There's a
ahead.
couple of others.
Yeah.
City clerk, and then, thank you, Matt.
Do you want to look at this?
No. I'm all set.
So if you click on that 2017 Woburn Traffic Code Complete, that's the whole one.
The parking restriction,
Yeah.
one, just the
And you go to
parking.
the schedule, parking restriction schedule.
Yeah. If you back out, there was there was a,
Schedule 1. Keep going, it's after the word, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Until you see it, keep going. Keep going.
if you could back out and there was an actual tab for it, too, if that's easier, but. Parking restrictions,
Schedule 1.
yeah, there you go. All right. Just so if there's any on there in Hammond Square, we know, and they're not signed, we can make sure signs get put up. That's a starting point at least. And then I would recommend maybe we, with some of the stuff, we sit down, you know, at a different time to kind of go over some of the stuff. The petition today was for enforcement, which we will do. When we're aware of a problem, we enforce. You know, we weren't really aware of this situation here. That's why I said I drove around, I noticed the Church Street problem, and we took care of that, hopefully. I'm sure they're gonna probably park there from time to time. If you see it, give us a call. But a lot of the other stuff, I'm not sure we can make any headway on today because of what the actual limitations on the petition was for today. You may need to do some more petitions at a later date, if the committee agrees.
So I noticed 72 hours, you can't park your car more than 72 hours on the street without moving.
Correct.
So the onus is on the neighborhood because there are cars parked there for days and weeks at
They're
a time.
abandoned and we're aware of it, we'll look
So-
into it.
So then it's up to the neighbors to call and say, this car's been here and hasn't moved in
Yes.
3+ days.
I mean, if an officer happens to see it and realize it's been there for a while, he'll look into it and do what he can, for sure, but many, many streets in the city, as you know, and relatively small police departments, so.
Yeah.
Karen?
I have a question through the chair for Sergeant Stokes.
Yes.
Catherine had mentioned excise tax bills.
Yep.
I know when you register and when you, your car, if you garage it in Woburn, that's what generates the excise tax bill. Is there a way when you run a license plate through the police department, if it shows if the car is listed as garaged in Woburn?
No, not that I'm aware of, no.
Because that would show whether or not they pay a Woburn an excise tax bill to Woburn. That's what generates the excise bill. It shows where it's garaged, but I didn't know if you could see that through the registry. No.
So we would have to call the police department, ask them to run a plate and see where it's registered?
No, if you just call the police department and say there's a car that's been parked out on the street for X amount of days, could you just take a look at it and see why it's not moved or whatnot, and we'll go down, we'll run the plate, try and locate the owner and find out what's going on with it. But,
It's a couple of years ago, there was a car abandoned at the Plimpton School lot, and it was there for 4 months. I was waiting to see if anybody would investigate it. So finally, after 4 months, I called. Turned out it was a stolen car from Lowell. And it sat there for 4 months in the parking lot, but it wasn't on the street, I guess, so.
yeah, not a lot of people in the neighborhood, no one called, right?
Well, you know, it's,
I mean,
people,
you're making it sound like it's the job of the police department to go to every single street, every single driveway, every single parking lot and do all this stuff, but if we are aware of a problem, we'll investigate it.
you know, it's a major cut-through. A lot of people cut through there, including the Woburn PD. You know, I mean, and, you know, people, I called one time, it was a party, graduation party from Woburn High, and they were all partying over at the Plimpton School lot, which is next to my house. And they were there all afternoon. I'm like, oh, you know, these kids they just graduated. You know, they're fine. They had the red Solo cups. But when it came to be 9 o'clock at night, that was enough for me. And I did call, and I don't like to call. And the police officer came up, my porch is right there, and he came up and he said, you have to leave because that lady over there called to complain, and pointed right at my house. So I was worried all weekend what might be done to my house.
And what does that have to do with this
No,
particular
I'm just telling you, this
petition
is
and
why
with me?
people don't call.
Was I the
They're
officer that
afraid.
was there? Are you calling me out here in the meeting, or?
Me? Oh, no.
So I don't understand your
No,
point.
no.
Where are you going
I'm
with
just,
this? What's your
you
point?
said people should call.
What's your-
And
correct.
I'm telling you why some people don't call, because they're afraid,
Okay.
yeah. And you don't want to be labeled as a, you know, a neighborhood crank either.
I get it,
No.
but
Yeah, no.
Okay, I think we
I
need to
think you
stay
guys
focused
do a
on the
good-
issue. Did you have something?
I think you do a great job.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I think that right now, we're not really accomplishing anything, so I'd like to make a motion here that the police department do their parking enforcement. DPW and engineering review the signage on those, in the streets in that neighborhood, and whatever's supposed to be a no parking area is properly signed. And in the interim, Ms. Shaughnessy can talk to both ward councilors and figure out a way to maybe get resident parking permits or signage on one side of the street, discuss it with the other residents in the neighborhood that that signed the petition, and see if you can work something out in that direction. And on our end, we'll do the parking enforcement that's necessary, make sure all the signage for no parking areas are all in place.
Do we have a second? on the
Second.
motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Appreciate it. I think
Anything else?
some
Anything
people
else?
might want to speak, I don't know. Did you close the item? I have some neighbors here, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Are there other neighbors here that might want to speak?
They may not. Some people don't like to get up here
Public
and
hearing.
speak in public.
Okay, so we're done?
What they're looking for, there was nothing we can do.
I'm just saying, it's up to you guys if you want.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to speak.
Let's do that. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this matter? Please state your name and address, please.
Right.
Linda
that's
Pike,
what I tried
11
to-
Scott
Sorry,
Street.
can you, just wait a second.
Linda Pike, 11 Scott Street.
Okay, could I just ask one question, one couple of points here? Let's just stay focused on the issue that's on this docket here and try to not repeat other situations that have come up earlier, but go ahead.
Okay, my question is, I live on Scott Street, and I just had a question about, in order for, you know, a fire truck to get up Scott Street, if there's people parked on both sides, we have to park on the sidewalk. I was told that if your car was in an accident or something and you were parked on the sidewalk, that's illegal? Is that true?
I'll defer to the fire and
To park
police
on the
folks.
sidewalk at any time. It's always illegal to park on the sidewalk,
But
on the
if
actual
you,
sidewalk.
but if you parked on the street,
I would call either the fire department or us to confirm whether or not there's a need to have action taken to move the vehicles.
okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this matter?
Hi, my name's Brian Shaughnessy, and I live at 7 Plimpton Street. And I was just wondering about the commercial cars, trucks with commercial plates on it. Are they supposed to be parked overnight there?
There's no overnight parking on the even side during the winter at all, and there's the commercial vehicles, certain weight in axle amounts can be left on there, 2,500 pounds, I believe, is,
So like a white van, or, you know,
a white van technically is fine. Okay, but again, we need to be aware, if you call us, we will confirm one way or the other if they're legal or not, so. That's the
Okay.
point I'm trying to get across here. If we're not aware of the problem's gonna exist until till we're made aware of it, so. We'll do everything we can to clear out the neighborhood for you.
all right. Yeah, I think she was, the mention about, like, there's a bunch of people live in 2 Plimpton Street, and they all have, well, I shouldn't say all, there's a few of them with the commercial trucks, or white trucks and vans, right?
But they don't have commercial plates on them?
No, some of them do, some of them don't. But they also have cars. So, I mean, that's one of the things about the boarding houses, is they have, one boarding house has a lot of cars to it, you know?
I understand. I understand about the boarding, I mean, we can't control the boarding house and how many, people live in there. That's a totally different, issue.
So 2 Plimpton Street, there's parking down and back, but one of my neighbors said, we was talking to someone there, and they said that she doesn't want a lot of cars parking there to bring attention that it's a boarding house, so, I can't confirm that, but that's,
Again,
so that's why they park up.
The police department can enforce parking regulations. Now that we're aware of the situation, we'll make sure that we're down there looking for any illegally parked cars, and we'll deal with them on a needed basis.
Okay.
As far as the boarding houses and all that stuff goes, it's nothing I don't think anybody here in this commission can help me
I
with
think
that.
some of those issues around, that Catherine brought up and what you're bringing up, that can be reported into the, I think the building commissioner can get involved with that if there's illegally parked cars and that sort of thing.
Okay, and what about working on cars in the streets? Is that,
About what?
working on cars in the streets,
You know,
is that all right?
it's not always all right, but again, if we don't know about it, how are we expected to enforce it? So
Yeah.
call us. If you see someone working in the car, we'll go down and we'll figure it out. But I mean, it has to be sometimes they might be doing something quick and need to get it taken care of.
If they get
to
a
be able to
flat
get it
tire
off
or
the
something,
street.
yeah. But this,
What's that?
they have them jacked up and then they leave
Well,
bolts and
yeah, they
stuff,
can't do
you
that.
know.
They can't leave it jacked up in the street, no. But again, we need to know about it, so. If you're telling me now there's a car down there that's jacked up in the street, I'll make a phone call now and send a police car down there to deal with it.
All right. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this topic? Okay. I believe we have completed our agenda this evening. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.